Okay, I want to deviate from my presentation for maybe 2-3 minutes because Secretary Rabi, you're really inspiring. And I want to address something you said, which is there is so much we can do in India for innovation. For TDK Ventures, we invested in 3 companies in India already. And innovation karma for me is really about you can do good and be well. And I want to give 2 examples of investments we did in Bangalore, which actually touch on this, which should be a really good example before it was a presentation. One is we talked about e-mobility. This is about Exponent, a company that is truly wonderful. You have all seen in India the 3-wheeler that transport people, that transport cargo. And Exponent is looking at electrifying, which means being better for the pollution, for the environment. But what they are doing is they are focusing on making sure the economics for the drivers are improved. So they are electrifying while improving the economics for this driver cum owners and all the ecosystem. And they are doing really, really well. So that's one good example. The second example is a company, I will try to say it well, Fasal, F-A-S-A-L, which is in the agtech space. And here, what they are doing is they are helping farmers to improve their crops, their economics. And what's interesting is that when you talk to farmers, and there are very, very small lands for each of these farmers, they actually don't want to produce more. They just want to earn better. And so when Fasal came to them, it was not about improving their crops and the quality of their produce, but also giving them a go-to-market. And so on top of our IoT product solution, they created this marketplace connecting the farmers directly with the consumers. And that, I think, is doing good, doing well, and inclusivity, where you help farmers. So I just wanted to give examples because I'm going to talk about innovation karma, and I felt like I had to respond to you. There is also one thing you talked about, which is to get investors coming to India. We're a corporate VC. I'm actually speaking a lot about the value of coming to India, especially in deep tech. And we wrote a Medium article sharing all the steps we had to go through to create our VC firm and our team in India. It was complex. But we wrote it so that it's easier for people to follow the blueprint, because we had a lot of discovery and exploration. I'm hoping maybe someone in your team could also look at it and see what steps could be skipped or improved. Because I think the more corporate VCs comes to India, the more they can help them succeed in India, but then go global, like you mentioned. So I just wanted to take this deviation to say what you said is so important. Thank you, Ravi. I want to talk about corporate venturing in a way of doing good and doing well. And the example I gave about inclusivity and making sure that you do well for people that really need support is handled. I will touch about collaboration and very practical tools. But what I want to say is that sustainable business matters. You need to be able to invest in companies that will do well, that will be profitable, because it touched on what the secretary said is you cannot scale if you're not profitable. And so if you want to contribute to society, it's not just about value creation, it's also about value capture. And if you do that, then you can scale and you can really have ambitious goals on a global basis. Just so that you have a sense for TDK Ventures, we have what we call an exploration mission. If you remember Professor Jasper Sorensen explaining about exploitation and exploration, that's what it was about. That's the moment in SEP, in the classroom with some of you, I had this idea of let's pitch TDK to do a corporate VC. And what's interesting is that what Jasper said is exactly what I did, and it has worked. And so I'm hoping I can inspire some of you to do the same or to contribute to some of the corporate VCs that want to do well. I'll go quick, but just to say that now we have moved to 40 portfolio companies since we sent the deck. we have done well as well. So we had 1 IPO, 4 M&As, we have 2 unicorns, we have 2 or 3 in the way. So we are clearly doing well with 3 funds. The first one was 50 million, which is the one which I started with the idea from SEP. But since then, last year, we launched a decarbonization fund. So we went beyond what's important for TDK strategically, but also what's good for decarbonization for the planet. This is my team. I'm super proud of the team. You can see them, but it's split into 3 teams themselves. One is the investment team, whose job is to learn and sometimes invest. We have an engagement team who's in charge of connecting portfolio companies, so the startups who have invested in, as well as startups who are not investing inside TDK. And I will show you how much of that is useful. And one of the reasons is our core values, entrepreneurs first, which I will talk about. And then we have a scaling team. And scaling team is quite special, especially for a corporate VC, which is we're here to help our portfolio companies scale, whether it's marketing help, non-dilutive financing, HR process, legal data room, and we do that all for free. So this is our code of conduct, which is a play word for CODE. C is contribution to society, which I think in a way is so important, but it's also with this angle of value creation and value capture. If you really contribute to society, it means that the society wants it. So there is a way of value capture. O is one team watching for the sky, and that's why we share a lot of what we learn along the way. That's why I started the podcast. That's why we wrote the Medium article about all the steps we had to go to set up a business in India. D is delivering deep insights, sharing what we learn, and E is entrepreneurs first. And it's not portfolio companies first, it's really entrepreneurs first. We see them as the customers and the heroes of our story. We have, because of that, I think, a very good NPS score. It has been 80% or above since we started. This year was actually 91%. So we are really looking at how we can help our entrepreneurs be successful. And we provide a number of services. I'm not going to go through that. I took minutes to talk to Ravi. But this is what is really important, I think, for corporate VCs, for VCs, and even for anyone who wants to contribute to the entrepreneurs, is what I call an equal win. Everyone talks about win-win. But let's be clear, when it's a startup and a big company, it looks like a small win and a big win. But in practice, 2-3 years later, whoever gets a small win moves on. Whoever thought they had a big win gets nothing. And so my team is very, very focused on making sure it's equal win. It's valuable on both sides. And this kind of checkerboard is showing all the engagements between now 40 portfolio companies and 52 TDK businesses all around the world. There is no way an entrepreneur would know which of the TDK business to engage with or R&D teams and at the right time. That's what my team is doing. And one of the things that I'm really proud is that many of our portfolio companies have produced something with TDK, making revenue and profit. I wrote something which I feel very strongly about, which is when you're an investor, you might feel like you're the boss. But actually, I believe that the entrepreneurs are the customers for investors, the VCs and the CVCs. And so I wrote about how we should think about when we are VCs, we invest in entrepreneurs and they are the customers. And if we do well by them, they will be more successful. And so I wrote about how to use the NPS methodology as a VC firm, but that's applicable to anything that we do. Of course, because of that, we get huge feedback from our portfolio companies. Infinite Uptime is a third portfolio company we invested in India, in Pune, that I have not yet mentioned. And they're really doing something really special on the industrial space. We have an investment thesis, so we are thesis-driven when we invest. And what that means is that we do deep dive into a space, and this is passion-based, bottom-up, driven by my investment team. They choose a topic they're passionate about. I'm not telling them what to do. They choose. I want them to be passionate about. With that, they go very deep, develop key insights, hopefully golden nuggets, hopefully contrarian views, and then they surface it to the team and they get challenged inside our team. And we have a process called Devil's Advocate where The investment director who's convinced about the investment will only get feedback from everyone in the team about why I would not invest. And after 1 hour plus of hearing why someone would not invest, which is really tough, it makes sure that you don't have blind spots or you're aware of the red flags. And then we try to map what we call the king of the hill, which is it's a small market or maybe a market of zero. And I'll give an example from one of our SEP classmates, but we believe they will be market leader. Now, one thing I wanted to talk about is backcasting. All of us at SEP, we can dream about a good future, an ideal state of the future. And then we can backcast what's needed, what's missing today. And then our job is to find these entrepreneurs who are building that missing gap to get to that ideal future. I don't think any one of us can predict the future, but we can dream the future. And if we do that well, and we help people who are bridging the gaps between today and the future, it could be wonderful. And I want to talk about Tian Yu, which is SEP 2018. And he came with that view of the ideal future where everyone can take an electric air taxi and move between places, electric, so not polluting, but also cheaper than today. Just to give you a sense, you could go from one city to another, maybe 20 miles. It takes maybe 5-7 minutes as doing well. Fusion Energy, Type 1 Energy is a nuclear fusion company we invested in. Imagine the world, again, backcasting to the ideal state of the future where we get green energy unlimited for nearly free. That's what nuclear fusion can do for us. And what's amazing is that nuclear fusion is so much safer. It has a fail-safe mechanism embedded in the technology compared to nuclear fission. And so with that, I want to say thank you, and just to say that India is an amazing place to invest, and we can do good, we can do well, and we can be more inclusive when we do this investment smartly. Thank you.